The sound of the door didn't just echo through the hallway, cut through the house like a warning. Not a casual click. Not the gentle close I had heard every morning for nearly 2 decades. It was a sharp, urgent slam, the kind that belonged in an argument we never had. Claire didn't say goodbye. She didn't kiss our youngest on the head. She didn't even glance at me. She snatched her purse from the chair and rushed out as if flames were at her heels. For a few seconds, I stood frozen by the kitchen counter, one hand wrapped around a mug of coffee that had suddenly turned cold. I stared at the door she'd vanished through, trying to make sense of the sharpness in her movements, the way she avoided my eyes. In 20 years of marriage, I'd never seen her leave like that. Part of me wanted to run after her, ask what was wrong, what had made her so distant, so distracted. But another part, the tired, rational part, told me not to overthink it. Morning stress, bad sleep, work on her mind. Or at least that's what I told myself. Behind me, our youngest daughter Lily swung her feet beneath the dining table, completely unbothered by the tension that hung in the air. "Dad, we're still going to the zoo on Friday, right?" she asked between cheerful bites of cereal. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Giraffes never wait." She giggled, milk on her chin, the sound softening the edges of the moment. Then came Ryan, our 17-year-old, dragging himself into the kitchen with the enthusiasm of someone walking toward their execution. "Morning," he muttered, grabbing a piece of toast before collapsing into his phone. "Math test today," I reminded him. Yeah, he sighed. A typical teenage morning. Ordinary, comforting. Upstairs, our oldest, Ben, was undoubtedly still asleep. He'd come home from college for the summer, which meant his mornings started somewhere around noon. I didn't mind. I liked having him back. Reminded me of the days when the house felt full, loud, alive. 20 years of breakfasts, lost shoes, packed lunches, half-burned pancakes, and school rushes. They had built the foundation of my life. And usually, mornings were also the time Claire and I felt closest. A shared moment, a joke, a soft comment about the day ahead. But today she had barely spoken, barely looked at me, just left. I kept brushing it off, burying the unease under routine. I dropped Lily off at school, then drove straight to the office of our family business. A small but steady chain of auto repair shops I'd built from scratch. Work was grounding, predictable. Engines didn't lie. Cars didn't pull away from you without warning. By lunchtime, the morning's tension had dulled into background noise. My phone buzzed. Then, "You alive, old man?" he answered when I picked up. "Barely. Miracles happen, you're awake before noon." Ha, funny. We met at our favorite burger place downtown. Greasy tables, terrible decor, the kind of spot we'd been going to since he was in middle school. Listening to him talk about classes, internships, the girl he liked, I felt that quiet pride only a father understands. Life felt normal again, or at least close enough. I didn't know then that this was the last week life would feel normal at all. The next morning tried its best to pretend it was normal. I made pancakes shaped like hearts, Lily's favorite, and she devoured them as if the world were perfectly in order. Claire sat nearby with her coffee, scrolling through her phone, her face calm, almost too calm. Her smile flickered in and out like a dying light bulb, but she acted present. She laughed when Lily smeared syrup on her chin. She teased me about my sugar-loaded lunches. She kissed the top of Ryan's head when he trudged past us. If I hadn't witnessed that rushed exit the day before, I might have believed everything was fine. I dropped Lily at school and headed to work. Engines, schedules, and invoices kept my hands busy, but my mind kept drifting. Flashes of Claire's distant eyes, the way she hadn't met my gaze. By lunch, Ben called again. "Same place?" he asked. "You're becoming predictable," I teased. "Must be genetic." We met at the same burger joint. He talked about school, job fairs, the kind of woman he hoped to meet someday. I listened, grateful for the distraction. When I left, I stopped by the store for extra vegetables. Claire had texted me earlier, planning some sort of stew for dinner. She loved cooking when she was relaxed. When I got home, The house was full of the usual chaos. Lily building a fort out of pillows, Ryan FaceTiming his friends upstairs, Ben raiding the fridge like he'd never seen food before. Claire was in the kitchen chopping onions, humming quietly, a soft smile on her lips. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself believe whatever unease I'd felt had been a misunderstanding. Dinner was the kind of evening I wished we had more often. Lily talked about her class project. Ryan complained about a teacher who hated him for no reason. Ben told a story about a dorm prank involving shaving cream and a professor's wig. Claire laughed, really laughed, and her hand brushed mine under the table. Later that night, when the kids were upstairs, she curled beside me on the couch, tucking her legs under herself the way she always had. I was thinking, she began. It's been forever since I had a weekend to myself. Kira invited me to her cabin with the girls. I might go. I blinked. Claire rarely took time away. Weekends were usually family time. You should, I told her. Honestly, you deserve a break. That earned me a soft kiss on the cheek. Thank you, Mark, she whispered. You always know what I need. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I still did. But something about the way she said it, something in her eyes, didn't sit right. Still, I pushed the thought aside. Because love sometimes blinds you more than hate ever will. The next morning was filled with the sound of zippers and hurried footsteps. Lily clung to Claire like she was leaving for a year, not 2 days. Will you come back, Mommy? She asked with a trembling lip. I promise, Claire said, kneeling and hugging her tightly. Just a little weekend away. She hugged the boys, kissed me, smiled, and then she left, suitcase rolling behind her. The moment the car disappeared down the street, Lily tugged my sleeve. Daddy, what are we doing today? I grinned. Get your swimsuit. We're going to the water park. Her excitement shot through the house like fireworks. Even Ryan peeked out of his room. You're coming too, I told him. No excuses. Fine, he sighed. But I'm not getting my hair wet. An hour later, we were standing in line for tickets, sun blazing, Lily bouncing, Ryan pretending not to be entertained. The park was crowded. Kids laughing, water splashing, sunscreen hanging thick in the air. Lily dragged me from slide to slide, her tiny hand gripping mine with pure joy. Ryan found a shady spot and took ridiculous selfies, making her laugh every time she passed. We ate overpriced hot dogs. We shared nachos. We took the worst family photos imaginable. By sunset, we were exhausted and sunburned in all the wrong places. That was the best day ever, Lily mumbled sleepily on the drive home, clutching the stuffed dolphin she'd begged me to buy. Sunday was quieter. Movies, breakfast, lazy hours on the couch. The kind of weekend that restored something inside me. When Claire came home that evening, she looked tired, but peaceful. How was it? I asked, helping her with her bags. Good, she said. Really good. She hugged Lily tightly, chatted with Ryan, kissed Ben on the cheek. Everything felt normal again. I didn't know I was living through the last normal moment in my marriage. Because the storm, the real storm, was already coming, and nothing would survive untouched. The week after Claire's weekend away began like any other, deceptively calm. If anything, she seemed lighter, kinder, almost overly attentive. She asked about my day, helped Ryan with homework, played a board game with Lily before bed, laughing more softly than usual, as if trying to reassure herself she still belonged in the life she was slowly walking away from. I convinced myself that strange momentary doubts were behind us. I was wrong, very wrong. That night, after the kids were asleep, I went to my office to finish paperwork. My business demanded constant attention, schedules, supply orders, payroll. The kind of work that kept my mind steady. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet you don't question when you trust your life. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down expecting a work notification, or maybe a message from Ben. Instead, the number was unknown. The message was short. You deserve to know the truth. Below it, a video file. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to make sense. Waiting for some context. A name. A warning. Something. My hands began to sweat. First, I assumed it was spam. But spam doesn't say words like that. Spam doesn't carry weight. Against every instinct, I tapped the file. The video loaded. Shaky. Dim. Filmed secretly. An office. A desk. A man sitting on its edge. Laughing quietly. And then, she stepped into the frame. Claire. Too close to him. Standing like she belonged in that space. Touching his shoulders as if they were familiar territory. I felt something inside my chest twist. Before I could even process it, the man reached for her, pulling her toward him with a confidence that only comes from repetition. Clothing shifted. Her voice, soft and unmistakable. Their movements slow, intimate, practiced. 2 minutes. That's all it took for the video to end. 2 minutes to dismantle 20 years. My phone screen went dark, but I stayed frozen, gripping it like it might bite. I replayed it, then again, searching for doubt, for a shadow that looked like her but wasn't, for an angle that might trick the eye. But it was her. Her laugh, her posture, her body leaning into someone who wasn't me. My stomach churned, my vision blurry at the edges. I knew betrayal could hurt. I'd heard stories. I'd listened to friends. I'd even judged people who'd stayed too long in broken marriages. But nothing prepared me for the physical punch of seeing your spouse's infidelity recorded from a distance you weren't supposed to witness. For a moment, I wanted to run upstairs and shake her awake. Demand answers. Scream. Break something. Anything to release the surge of pain clawing its way through my chest. But I didn't, because pain is loud, but strategy is quiet. I saved the video, locked it behind passwords and encrypted folders, then leaned back in my chair, unable to move. Every moment from the past months replayed in fragments. Her late nights, the sudden girls' weekend, the soft, distracted smiles, the slammed door that morning that had felt wrong without me knowing why. Hours passed before I stood up. When I finally walked to the bedroom, she was already asleep. Claire lay there peacefully, breathing steady, arms relaxed, unaware that my world had just been shattered. I stood in the doorway, watching a stranger sleep in my bed. Then I turned out the light and walked away. Morning came heavy. I forced myself through breakfast, pretending nothing had changed. Lily chattered happily. Ryan complained about school. Claire poured coffee like she wasn't living a double life. I answered questions, smiled where appropriate, played the role I needed to. Then I dropped Lily off at school and drove straight to my lawyer. Brian had been my attorney for years. He'd seen me through business expansions, contract disputes, licensing issues, but never this. "What's going on, Mark?" he asked as I sat down. I slid the phone across the desk. "Watch it." He did, silently, jaw tightening. When it was over, he exhaled. "This changes everything." "I need options," I said. My voice sounded cold even to myself. "If you want a divorce," he replied. "This is solid evidence. But you can't confront her yet. Don't give her time to cover her tracks or manipulate the situation. Protect your assets first. Protect your kids. Move smart." I nodded. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about punishing her. I was thinking about survival. That night, I returned home and slipped back into my life as if nothing had shifted. I helped Lily with her reading. I teased Ryan about his haircut. I ate dinner with Claire and pretended her hand brushing mine didn't make my skin crawl. "Busy day?" she asked. "Very." She smiled lightly, completely unaware. Inside, the storm kept building, quiet and deadly. I didn't know how or when I would confront her. I only knew that when I did, our marriage would no longer exist the moment the first word left my mouth. The days after discovering the video felt like walking through a burning house while pretending not to smell the smoke. Every morning, I woke up beside Claire, feeling the weight of the secret pressing against my ribs. Every evening, I sat across from her at the dinner table, listening to her talk about work, about Kira, about the kids, as if her world wasn't built on lies. But I kept my face calm, because Brian was right. Timing mattered more than rage. I opened a new bank account under my name only. I transferred small amounts from our joint account. Barely noticeable shifts, subtle enough not to raise suspicion. I reorganized business paperwork, moving ownership into a trust under my mother's name. Claire had never cared for the operational side. She would never notice. At home, I perfected the role of the oblivious husband. I laughed when Lily told her stories. I helped Ryan with his college applications. I sat on the couch with Claire and watched a show we'd always watched together. She rested her head on my shoulder that night, unaware that I had already mentally signed the end of our marriage. By Friday, I was ready. I'd protected what mattered: my children, my business, my future. Brian reviewed everything one last time. "You're covered," he said. "File whenever you're ready." I filed that afternoon, and then I waited. That evening, the house fell into its familiar rhythm. Lily playing in the living room, Ryan upstairs, Ben studying in his old room. Claire sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, completely unaware that the ground beneath her life was already cracked open. I walked into the room and sat across from her. She looked up and smiled. "Everything okay? We need to talk." The way she blinked told me she felt a shift, a tremor she didn't understand yet. I set my phone on the coffee table, opened the video, pressed play. Her eyes followed the screen, first confused, then horrified. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her breath hitched. Her shoulders curled in, like the air had been punched out of her. When it ended, she didn't speak. Not for a long moment. Then, in a trembling whisper, "Mark, I can explain." "No," I said. "You can tell the truth. Not excuses." "How long?" Tears spilled instantly. Since Christmas." The words were small, brittle, but deadly. I felt something inside me finally break. Quietly, without sound. "It didn't mean anything," she sobbed. I was confused. I felt unseen. "You were so focused on the business, on the kids. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" My voice didn't rise, it sank lower, steadier. Cheating for months wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. She reached for my hand. "Please, we can fix this. Don't throw away 20 years. I pulled my hand back. "You threw them away for me." She collapsed into herself, crying harder, as if the tears could wash away the truth. I stood up. "I already filed for divorce." The words hit her like a physical blow. She let out a sound. A choked, broken sob I had never heard from her before. "Mark, please, don't do this. Don't take the kids from me. I can change. I can get help. Just don't end it." But it was already over. Without another word, I turned and walked away. Her sobs followed me down the hallway, echoing off the walls of a home that had stopped being ours. The following days were colder than winter. Claire moved through the house like a ghost, apologizing, begging, crying, trying to hold on to anything that resembled normal. But the kids noticed. They always do. One evening, Ryan approached me after dinner. "Dad, is something going on with you and Mom?" I looked at him. My middle child, suddenly more grown than I realized. I sat him down. "Your mom and we're getting a divorce." He stared at me, stunned. "Why?" "It's complicated," I said. "But it's something that has to happen." He nodded slowly, his jaw tight, his eyes glassy. Ben reacted with quiet disbelief when I told him. He didn't ask why, he asked, "Is it because of her?" "Yes." Silence. Then a long, steady breath. I figured. I didn't ask what he'd noticed. Maybe he saw signs I ignored. Maybe children sense when trust begins to rot. Claire tried speaking to them, but their responses were short, careful, strained. Lily was too young to understand. She only knew something heavy was happening in the house. "Why doesn't Mommy laugh anymore?" she asked one night. "Sometimes adults have hard days," I told her softly. "But I'm right here. Always." What I couldn't tell her was that Claire was busy lighting her own world on fire. The worst came a few days later. Ryan came into my office, pale and shaking. "Dad, Mom said something weird." "What did she say?" He swallowed hard. She said, "You used to hit her." She told me and Ben that if we said it in court, she could get custody of Lily. For a moment the world tilted. "She said what?" He nodded, eyes wet. "I told her she was lying. I told her I've lived here my whole life and you've never raised a hand to anyone." My breath left my body in a cold, heavy rush. "She tried the same with Ben," he whispered. "He told her if she ever asked him again, he'd block her number." I closed my eyes, not out of pain, but out of the certainty that there was no way back for Claire anymore. That night, when the kids were upstairs, she confronted me. "Why are they turning against me?" she cried. "You poisoned them." "No," I said quietly. "You did." She stared at me, broken and furious and lost. But the consequences weren't a punishment. They were simply the truth finally catching up. The next morning, Ryan confronted her directly at breakfast. "If you ever lie about Dad again," he said, "you can forget we're your kids." Ben added quietly, "You already lost him. Don't lose us too." Claire didn't say a word. She just stared at her plate, hands shaking. Her bridge to the children was collapsing, plank by plank, under the weight of her own choices. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. The divorce was finalized on a gray Tuesday morning, quietly, almost without ceremony. 20 years together ended with a signature and a nod from the judge. I walked out of the courtroom feeling something I hadn't expected. Relief, not victory, not triumph, just the weight of a long, painful chapter finally lifting. I was granted full custody of Lily, supervised visits for Claire. The house, the savings, and, most importantly, my business were secured. Claire left the courthouse looking hollow, clutching a folder she didn't really see. I didn't hate her. I just no longer knew the woman who had stood beside me for half my life. At home, we adjusted. The house was quieter, but the tension was gone. Ben started helping more at the shop, asking serious questions, ones that made me think he might take over the business someday. Ryan softened, becoming Lily's unofficial entertainer, drawing with her, watching cartoons, keeping her laughing. And Lily, she clung to us, but slowly, gently, she began to steady. Claire tried reconnecting with the older kids, but they kept their distance. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Her choices had consequences, ones that would follow her far beyond the divorce. One evening, the four of us sat outside by the fire pit. Lily roasted marshmallows. Ben told a stupid college story. Ryan teased him. Their laughter filled the yard. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace instead of pretending. We weren't the same family we'd been before, but we were still a family, still standing. And now, we were finally moving forward.